right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another 100 Hours Launchpad. I'm just doing a sound check. Can somebody please confirm that they can hear me?
Clear, sir.
Clear?
Yep.
Clear po.
Clear.
Okay. We are going to get started in another 2 minutes. Are we doing the countdown? Yes. Okay. Here we go. It is 2:30 p.m. Welcome to another 100-hour Launchpad. It's a very special session today. You might say it's a closed-door session. Today, the Ignite team, our very own Ignite team, takes on the 100-hour challenge. Our special focus for today is generating revenues. Ventures generating revenues, particularly in response to this new normal. So I personally am very excited about this. We shall see what we come up with. As always, if I can ask our partners backstage, led by King, if we could please start with our moment of silence. Can we see the names of our heroes? So I would like to invite all of you to a moment of silence to honor our frontliners. These are our fallen doctors who have given their lives. So my friends, a reminder again that these lives given, they fought the good fight for us. A reminder again that we have our own fights to take care of, and that we will give it our all. So on that regard, let's have this rocket ship take off. The fifth edition of 100-hour Launchpad coming to you live. I shall now turn it over to my partner, Miguel Aranaz, who will get us started. Miguel?
Thanks, Andre. Hi to everyone. So today should be interesting. Okay, we're excited to see what you guys have come up with using the application. But even before we get to that, let's do a little warm up just to get our creative juices flowing. So this particular activity is gonna require that we all have a piece of paper, two small pieces of paper and a pen. Okay, I'll give you like a few seconds to fix that up. Okay. Okay, I'm going to show something on the screen right now. Do you all see that? It's called the Sunset Challenge. Do you see it?
Miguel, I'm allowed to use my iPad, no? With the stylus?
Yes.
Okay.
You see the screen?
Yep, I do. The Sunset Challenge.
Okay. All right. So I will do this really quick. All right. So there's a lesson after this little warm up, but the first thing I want all is to do is to grab a small piece of paper and pen. Okay. Now I'm going to give you 1 minute to draw a sunset. All right. So when you think of a sunset, draw a sunset. 1 minute, draw it on a piece of paper. When you're done, place your sketch in front of your webcam, because we'll be sifting through the well, I'll be showing some of your sketches. Don't worry, this is not art class. Okay. "30 seconds, just draw a sunset." Okay. So let's just stop sharing now. King, can I get some help over here, please? All right. We're gonna flash through some of your sketches. So turn on your webcam, just show the paper. You don't have to show yourself. Okay, this one's Joanna. All right. Seeing that, thank you. There's Andre. All right. Thank you. Carlo over there. All right. There's a few more. This is Chinny.
I see Dandy.
Okay. Dandy over there, right? Okay, so thank you for that. Now, okay, could you turn on your mics really quick? I need to hear who of you have drawn the following, okay? I'm gonna show something up on the screen. Okay, so who of you, all right, who of you drew a horizon line? Just say I.
Me. Hi.
Okay.
Carlo.
Me,
All right.
Marja.
Joanna.
Okay.
M.A.
Carlo.
Sarah.
Yes. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Aki.
So, you, okay. Who of you drew a tree?
I did, Carlo.
Carlo, okay. That's it. All right. Who drew water?
Me.
I did. Aldous.
Me.
Joanna.
Sir
Carlo
Des,
again.
Jay.
Yes.
Who drew birds?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, Paulo. Sorry. Last, who drew sun rays?
I did.
Joanna, me.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So here's what I need you to all do next, okay? Based on what you guys mentioned, it's pretty obvious that horizon line, water, and sun rays are the most common things that people drew, right? In fact, give me a second. In fact, what you guys drew looks something like this, right?
Yes.
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 Okay, all right. So let's move on to the next. Grab another piece of paper. Okay. Now I'll give you 1 minute again. Draw the most recent pre-COVID sunset you saw. All right. So not while being quarantined, but the last one you saw before we got stuck at our homes. Okay. I'll give you 1 minute. Again, same thing when you're done. Place your sketch in front of the webcam. Thirty seconds. Okay, Ken, is everyone ready? Please show your sketches. Okay, let's look at a few. Okay, Polos, is this a, looks like it's a farm, okay.
Actually, it's your pool.
Oh,
From
okay. Okay, right. Next. This is Carlo. Oh, who's this? Okay, Sarah, okay. On the road. Marjan at home, all right. Okay, let's look at two more.
Also tally mine.
Okay, Marjan. Andre over there. Yes, looks like it's Ali. Okay. Okay, so what do you guys notice from what was, I mean, from the first drawing to the second drawing?
Mas detailed na siya.
Okay, it's more detailed. Oh, what else?
It's
As compared to the
basically
first one.
the same type of view. It's water, trees,
Mhm.
and the beach.
Okay.
For me, it's more real. It's more real, meaning it's something that I really experienced compared to the first one. This is like something that's just going on in my head, like the first thing that would come up in my head. The next one is a window
Okay.
of an aircraft watching the sunset. So that's
Mhm.
something that I experienced when I was going to Palawan last 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Okay. Okay, great. So, what is the point of that? If you guys notice, just by changing the way we ask the questions, it actually led to a more diverse set of answers. Okay, and the point being is that if you ask generic questions, you'll get generic answers. And the reason we raise that point is that this ties pretty much with what we're trying to do, because the fact is, in order for us to get to really good questions, it has to start from a deeper understanding of our stakeholders. In fact, and this is something that we talked about just recently. If you think about it, if you think about it, problem solving starts with connecting. All right. Not just listening, but actually connecting with your stakeholders. And I guess this shines a light on why that first step um, in this 100-hour Launchpad is all about really starting with the stakeholder and finding ways to connect with them so that you deeply understand what they need and see how this helps craft what the problems we should be solving around around any project that you work on. Okay. Andre, you want to add anything on that?
No, I'm looking forward to sunset. That's all I can add.
Okay then. So let's start off now with let's go straight into the session draft. So just to give everyone some context, we should have 4 groups over here that worked on 4 separate projects. We've predetermined the order that we'll be going through it. So, Keng, who's the first group? Okay, so platforms and then shared, and then wholeness, and media house will be last. All right. Okay. So here's what we'll do. Can the platform team just take over the screen? All right. For this first phase, I will go through stop 3 and 5. Now, we don't need. We really want to understand, like the process that went through as you answered stop 3, as you went through stop 4, as you went through the different phases from solo workout to peer exchange, and then coming up with the iterated response. Who's going to be the representative for the platform team?
Ako na, si Eileen.
Okay, Eileen. All right.
Okay.
Floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, wait. Can I borrow the screen for presenting?
Yes, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you.
Wait,
Yun.
when it's
Wait
ready,
lang.
it's yours.
Okay, wait lang. Okay, wait. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay ba yung audio ko? Kasi around this time talagang
Audio
bad
and
yung
video are all clear. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So
Good.
our team is composed of myself, Marjan, PJ, Carla is an import of ours, and then Gian. So we had Gian participate in our session also. So I wanted to start off with answering yung question ni Miguel in terms of the process that we went through. So like every one of us, we used the tool, yung 100H Launchpad natin. I asked the team to do a pre-work. So they did a solo workout for stop 3 to 5. And then I facilitated a session where we went through the rest of the stops. How we did that was when we were in the call, we started off with peer exchange for stop 3. Kasi yun yung stakeholder, diba? So I gave them an opportunity to talk about the stakeholders that they listed, why they consider those as our stakeholders, and what type of need, that entire roster of question around stakeholders. And then we went to the iterated response. So right there and then, I marked the ones that I wanted to move into the iterated response because it seemed like it was the theme that was surfacing. And then when we moved it and we all can see all the answers that were moved to the iterated response na page, we re-articulated what that is for us. And then from then on, we did stop 4 onwards. Pero remember, they already did pre-work for 4 and 5. But we still did the stop from solo workout. Why? Because we had an iterated response already for the stakeholder, I gave them an opportunity to either one, edit their answer kung medyo hindi yun yung, if their stakeholder wasn't the stakeholder that we as a group decided na yun yung stakeholder namin, to further build on it, expand on their answers if the stakeholder that we defined is the stakeholder that they also identified during their solo workout. And then after we completed the entire cycle, I had to take all the iterated response out of the app, and then I had to summarize it here on the separate deck, which from a developer standpoint, from a design standpoint ng app, we also use that exercise, that entire exercise we went through yesterday, to take note of all of the possible improvements that we can do with the app. Because it was necessary at that stage, tas wala siya or hindi namin siya makita. So it was serving both, it was serving two purposes for us. It was a way for us to ideate around what we wanted to offer as an answer to the revenue generating challenge. And two, we also used this as an opportunity to take note of new build requirements for the 100H app. Yeah. Questions before I move forward?
Miguel.
Sorry.
Andre here. Should
Yep.
we not focus this Launchpad on content rather than process?
On what? Sorry.
Should we not focus this Launchpad, this session, on content rather than process? For example, Eileen has spoken for 5 minutes, and she is not. I don't have no idea what their project is. Is this a process session or is this a content session?
It's more of a content session wherein they're also just explaining the process in terms of like after going through the steps probably.
Yeah,
Then
but
they're explaining what they did.
let's just jump into the content and explain to us your dynamics as you're in the app. Let's avoid these presentations right here.
Okay. Hindi, kasi yun yung sabi niya kanina about the process.
In
Anyway.
other words, you want to hear what your ideas are.
Okay, sige. We'll jump into our content na. And then I'll just speed through this. So our answer at the iterated response namin for zeroing in on our target stakeholder. So there were two target stakeholder that would benefit from the solutions that we wanted to offer. One, founder startup and SMEs that need end-to-end enabler support in our core areas. And then big companies that seek to outsource certain requirements that they don't have an in-house team for. This came from two different narrative or stories. I don't know if you guys would want to hear those stories or hindi na.
No, let's go to your ideas.
Hindi na?
We want
Okay,
to hear
sige,
what
sige.
business generating ideas are.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay lang, Andre. So
Yeah.
how have we encountered them in meaningful ways? To begin with, for the founders, Ignite
Sorry,
has always
sorry,
been about founders. Yes.
Excuse me. Why are we not using the app?
Kasi masyadong maraming laman. And masyado siyang maraming...
I
So for
think you
example,
really-
if I go here, can you see it? So then
Yeah.
yung mga sagot, and then this one is what I took out, this part here, and I transferred it to the deck. Kasi nga, di ba, yun yung parang isang area for improvement nitong app na to. Wala tayong summary page. So I have to hop from the stop to stop
Shouldn't this kind of
if you wanted to see.
Shouldn't this kind of exchange be going on at the? By the way, it's not readable in my screen. It's
Oh,
too
yun nga.
small. Is there any way to enlarge the? Yeah. Miguel, what do you think at the iterated response
Mhm.
level? Isn't this too much? They have
Well,
processed all this during the peer exchanges.
is this
This is-
iterated response?
Yes.
I had, minove ko yung, di ba, the idea is if there are surfacing things on the peer exchange, i-move ko siya dito kasi reference ko siya when I write this part. This is the iterated response.
Oh, you moved everything?
No. I just moved the
We
ones
moved
that,
collectively. But she still, I think, moved too much. by the time you get to iterated response, correct me if
Should be
I'm wrong,
one.
Miguel, the leader should
Mhm.
really be taking charge. And
Yes.
this kind of exchange and processing needs to go on at the level of the peer exchange and the plenary exchange. By the time you're done with peer exchange and plenary exchange, it is incumbent upon the leader of the project to make a call as to what the iterated response is. And that is what gets transferred onto the iterated response zone. You should not be, as a general rule, you should be transferring one idea, consolidated, synthesized into the iterated response zone.
Mhm.
Because
Okay.
Yes,
again,
this is happening.
again, the processing, the wrestling, the building on top of each other's ideas, the synthesizing should have been done. That's precisely what the peer reviews
The plenary exchange.
and the plenary exchange are for. You're supposed to go wrestling there. So, in sum, who is your target stakeholder that you emerged with as an iterated response?
This one, the founder, startup SMEs, and big companies that seek to outsource certain requirements that they don't have
Alright,
in-house
so,
or.
for example, you need to choose one, I believe.
Okay.
Mhm.
You need to choose one.
Yep.
You need to choose one. Look. In this case, for example, if we chose big companies that seek to outsource certain requirements, that's what we're going to build the product for. Now, if it happens to be useful to founders, startups, SMEs as well, that's good. But we can't build for two markets in mind. That kind of violates the whole philosophy of 100H. Miguel, go ahead. You might have other thoughts.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I would said also. I mean, there has to be this focus at this stage. We don't know if we got it right or not at this point, but like you need to make that decision, especially as a project leader also. You have to make the decision on like which direction should we actually be taking this, and this was of course inspired by what you gathered from the plenary exchange.
All right. So, for example, so we can move forward with this idea. For example, we chose big companies, which of course is much closer to our knitting, right? As a company, I wouldn't even say it's much closer. I mean, we don't really serve startups, founders, and SMEs unless it's in the. We don't serve them as revenue generating concerns. If anything, they take money from us, right? As investments. So because the parameter here is revenue generating projects, so then let's say for purposes of this exercise that the iterated response is big companies that seek to outsource certain requirements. Shall we?
Okay.
All right. Okay, then we take that iterated response and that becomes the starting point for our next stop, which is
The target problem.
okay. So
Okay. So
yes. Okay.
I
Guys,
think the
next time
target.
let's use the app. Next time let's use the app. Take us through the highlights of the app. Like which ones were when you do peer exchange, right? There must have been even if you have 20 responses there in peer exchange, right? There must have been a particular thread that really where you coalesce around, where the insight coalesce around, or if not a particular thread, there might have been one solo workout that personified the essence of what all the others said. So we'd like to see those highlights. Better for us to see them on app rather than here. So, but since you prepared this, Eileen, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's
Sige.
follow the stakeholder route of
Big companies.
the big companies, no? So let's not talk about the pain points of the SMEs and startups. Go ahead.
Okay.
What
Good.
did you guys
I
feel
think,
about?
yeah, sige. I think this one naman, the pain points that we've identified applies to both in essence. One, they don't have the resources or expertise or the time to determine or deliver the solutions that would actually work or create the most impact for them in the area of the platform. So whether big company or startup, that's always the issue, that resources. And then for some of the leaders, the time and brain space that they need to focus on higher order thinking or strategizing, sometimes it's taken away by the need to deliver or execute or maintain these platform related requirements. In terms of the crisis, how the current crisis have affected these needs, there was a need to migrate quickly to digital across different facets of operations. So now more than ever, the things that we do on the platform side, relevant siya. And then they also need this time and the brain space to figure out how they're going to adjust to their new normal, how they're going to refocus. So if we could take that away from them, worrying about these other things that they need to migrate digitally, then they could focus more on what they need to do when.
All right, Eileen,
Yes.
my question is, you need to, at this point, start enunciating what you mean by platforms. I am
Okay.
lost as to what you mean by platforms, because I'm assuming that whatever it is you mean by platforms is what you want to take away from the big companies, right? You want them to outsource it to you.
Yes.
Okay, so I need to see this because I can tell you my point of skepticism right away. Most big companies have their own platform teams. But so show me what you're talking about.
Okay, sige. So maybe we could just skip na tong mga part na to if that's the major item that you wanted to see. Kasi the from lang naman is that state that I described them.
Just talk to us verbally. What do you mean by platforms?
Okay, platforms include these things. So our solution set, which includes tools around website, CMS application, collaboration, execution, project management platform, CRM, digital content services. So everything that our team, one, is capable of doing, two, has the potential of developing. So in this area of tools. Plus, apart from the tools, the people that will be able to deploy to them, because we're also offering solutions around, we took inspiration from the Ignite Delta Force. So there's a platform Delta Force team that can be deployed to their organization so that we can sort of like, they can pair us with somebody who would eventually do that for their team.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Are you envisioning something around the lines of what Rystrom and LoudCloud are doing for us?
Yes. Pero we're doing it lahat na for one client.
We need to inject this with a heavy dose of reality. Big companies do not outsource this. They have their own dedicated teams in-house to run all of these things. Websites, content management systems, unless you know something I don't, in which case please bring it up. Yeah,
so the inspiration from why we had to include, because originally I just really wanted to do startup SMEs, because that was taken from how the shared services design was.
Right.
But Gian brought up an interesting point kasi as a consultant, what he experienced was that he challenged that notion. Sinabi niya, I think in my case, in my experience, there are really big companies that outsource some of these because they don't have the team for it. For example, sa kanya, yung UI UX element niya, in-outsource yun sa kanya kasi walang team, or kung may team, they're swamped with all other projects that they're working on.
So let me interject this. Miguel, come in and disagree with me, right? Maybe I'm pushing back too much at too early a stage. But at this point, I would say that maybe if we're looking at this menu of so-called menu, no, of
Mm.
platform pains. Remember, we're still at pains, no. Let's not forget that we're still at stop number 4, and we're just trying to be more what do you call this? Precise about what these pains are instead of just referring to them as platform pains, no. Maybe we need to be more zeroed in on which of these pains, because it's if you talk about the pain is UI UX, okay, then let's zero in on that, which is very different from project management pain, which is very different from CRM. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's too broad. Miguel.
Yeah, I agree. There has to be, well, again, more focus in terms of how we have to be more specific, with the pains also. Maybe, to some extent, if we're looking at that one stakeholder, we're looking maybe at that one pain that we want to focus on first, and then, see how it leads to that very, not very specific question, but a question that allows us to explore, but at the same time not be too like not end up with a problem statement that makes us more, I guess, that's just too out there as well. So yes, there has to be more specificity with the pain points, with who the stakeholder is. Right now we said big company, so it was good that you actually described the picture of who the stakeholder was. But yeah, the pain point was a little bit too broad. Maybe a trick probably is to look for a pain point that isn't exactly obvious, but it's very interesting to try and address. Like, what about platform specifically? Can we work towards or work on?
Again, even the idea that it's platforms already, I think, is taking shortcuts and not really being very disciplined about zeroing in on stakeholder. And what I see here is a reverse methodology, quite frankly. We have a solution, we know we're good at it, and we're reversing our way. We're reverse engineering our way to finding somebody to sell it to. Which I'm not necessarily going to say isn't going to work, but that's not the 100R methodology. Or is it, Miguel? Am I missing something?
No, it's not. Definitely not.
No, like I said, I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but that's not the 100R methodology. Now, here's another feedback point for you guys. And this time I'm going to critique myself, no? Because having listened to your stop number 4, zeroing in on target stakeholders' pain points, understanding your potential to develop solutions in this way. Now, when you talk about CMS, UI, UX, all the stuff that we have so painstakingly done for ourselves, right? We have painstakingly built this up as capabilities for our own internal use. Imagine other startups or smaller companies trying to do what we're doing for themselves. Is that painful?
Yeah, actually yun yung reason kaya mas, in terms of preference between the two, yung startup yung
okay
area that I really wanted to.
I agree with you here. I agree with you here. I would go back to, but again, see, you presented this opportunity for me to screw up because you gave two target stakeholders. Narrow it
No,
down
because
one.
yeah. Gets to Andre where you're coming from. I think we're just maybe honestly nasasayangan ako dun sa opportunities of projects that may come from big companies pero tingi siya. Kasi sa startup, we can offer.
That's not the 100H methodology. The way you sprint fast and deliver a solution that 100 customers love, as opposed to 1,000 customers are lukewarm about, is by hyper-focusing on a particular stakeholder, getting to know them very intimately, zeroing in on their particular pain points, and hacking out a solution that is entirely a fit for that. Now, if your solution happens to also serve another market, well, then that's happiness. But that's not the way you build these types of solutions. No, we must focus from the start. Allow our iterations to refocus us if it needs to be. But if we're trying to be two birds to two very different markets, no. So having cut a long story short, where we are at stop 4, I would go back and say at stop 3, let's zero in on startups, SMEs as target market. But even there, narrow it down. Startups, SMEs, too broad. Narrow it down, and then narrow down this solution set, this pain set, this set of pains. What do you mean by platforms?
Yeah,
To where
yung intent. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. You were saying. Finish what you were saying first.
Done.
Okay. What I was thinking kasi here, if you can see yung sa baba niya, 'di ba yung tungkol sa product of sorry. Lumabas siya. Itong part where the product offering is hindi naman siya lahat na agad available. I listed the ones that I know kaya or it'll develop.
I need to jump in here because this is the problem with we are at stop number 4, zeroing in on pain points. We shouldn't be talking about solutions. We should be talking and being very focused and honest about zeroing in on the target stakeholders' pain points, not on our solutions. We're jumping ahead. Miguel.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you want, you can go to stop there. So from here, I guess a while ago, I think we were just really trying to clarify what we meant by platform.
Okay.
And then yeah. So parang you did jump to your solution already, but I guess that's also something that all of us need to get used to. It's that habit really of, one thing I'm realizing is that after stop 5, maybe we need to even have this, like a pause in terms of like being able to assess, looking back at our stakeholder, how specific and like relevant is the pain point, that we that emerged, and how relevant is our vision of impact as well also. So I think that's something that we need to make of a habit.
If you remember, for our own, in our own 100H case study, meaning the way we banged out this product, we didn't say big companies. We said the CEO, their one downs, and their one downs. We were very specific about that, and then we were very targeted about the pain points. The pain points are they need to refocus so many people. They need to reorganize so many people. 2. Number 3, they need to bang out solutions fast. We're not saying that was the only universe of pain points that these people had. But what we were saying is that that's what we're going to zero in on. And that's what we built a solution around, right? So I would send you back and zero in on your stakeholder with a bit more tightness. And then within that tightness, that tighter focus around the stakeholder, if it's going to be SMEs or startups or what type, in what industries even, for example. That's where you really have to have your nose out on the market. What SMEs, for example, here's some thinking already. When we look at target stakeholders, what SMEs are going to survive?
Okay, that's...
There's no point in serving SMEs that are going to, for example, don't tell me we're going to serve restaurants. There ain't no restaurants to serve. Think about the SMEs that are going to make it, and think about them in the sense of there's going to be a lot of them. And while the good news is they're going to make it, the bad news is they're going to have a lot of problem. They're going to be cash strapped. They're going
Yeah.
to be. They're going to have all sorts of limitations. It's going to be a hard market to thrive in. What are their specific things? So you understand the level of
Yeah.
specificity and therefore intimacy that we're trying to get at.
Yeah.
And when you get to that, then you will be able to zero in on a really intimate from-to statement, delta statement, that will now trigger a very targeted solution that that we have a shot for them to fall in love with.
Yeah.
That's what
Gets.
we want.
So, may question ako, Andre, and this is for the app design side. Kailangan bang may ganong klase ng mga tanong? Kasi honestly ako, di ko kasi to space, diba? You hired me because I'm good at really executing what your idea is. But being in this position, these types of questions, they don't normally occur to many of us as common sense questions. So does that mean yung stop na yun, we're talking about the stakeholder, do we need more questions like this? Kasi itong tanong na to na key pain points, ganyan. We didn't do it lazily. Inisip din namin siya. Pero we were asking different questions as opposed to the questions that you've now asked me, which as an execution person, I know what you're trying to drive at and I can deliver the answer to that. So medyo more on the app side, na-realize ko na,
So,
I wasn't prompted to ask these types of questions
Miguel,
myself.
Language
and
and quality.
Miguel, who is your deputy in terms of these types of tweaks? Who can be taking minutes for us on your 100 each side? Or Eileen, maybe who?
Marjan.
Is it Marjan?
Yes, ako.
Yeah, but
Okay. So can you note this as a? We shouldn't try to answer it during this session.
Hindi.
yes.
Let's
Question
note
lang.
that as, do we need more pro tips? Do we need deeper questions, etc.?
Yeah.
The balance there is we don't want to make it too tedious for people like me. This comes instinctively, no. I don't want to have to go through that, but so let's see how to serve up this pro tip. But thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Sige.
Good stuff.
We'll just
stuff.
go back to our drawing board. Tapos, anyway, if you have other questions that you wanted us to look into to help us with like zoning in, because to us this is a real thing. We really want to launch this out there,
Okay.
so that would be very helpful for us.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
You know,
Thank you.
let's see if I can remember all the names. Eileen, PJ,
Jet.
Martin, Jet, and the import, Gino and
Carla.
Carla.
Yeah.
I am very hopeful about your potential, no, to band this out. You're a good team. You have consistently been a good team. You have a superior leader. You just have to tighten the screws where we asked you to tighten the screws. Focus, because we want intimacy. We want real deep connection with the people that we are going to deliver these solutions for. That's the key. All right. And if you're casting such a wide net, you're not going to have that intimacy. All right. But you guys are a fantastic execution team, and you guys have conquered. I mean, you guys are called the platforms team because you built platforms that are finally starting to work for us. So I'm sure you can make it work for others out there. We just need to be focused on who they are. Okay? All right, go. Good job.
All right. Next. Good job, guys. Thank you. Next.
Hello.
Shared services.
Hello. Who do you want to greet?
This is MA.
Okay.
Amy.
Miguel, we also made a summary of the iterated response, but if parang I'll just share my screen, pero we'll use the siguro, yung tool mismo to
Yeah.
walk you through.
Yeah.
our
Yes,
iterated-
better.
Okay. Represent.
While they're bringing that up, Miguel, why don't we just make this a Q&A?
Yeah, you can.
MA,
Yes.
Shanice, Domingo, and Matthew. Anybody else? Did you import anybody?
Eileen.
Eileen? That's a real
He's
report.
a
Okay.
collaborator.
So we'll make this a Q&A, right? So first of all, let's start with who is your target stakeholder, finally, and then we'll back into the process that got you there. Who is your target stakeholder?
So our target stakeholders are existing and startups, SMEs, and sole proprietors.
Okay, if I were to ask you, because that's still a spectrum, right?
Yes.
You have the SMs, meaning the small,
Mhm.
medium. You have the micro enterprises. You have the sole proprietorships. You have the startups. Which end of the spectrum are you tending toward? The small or medium size, which is the bigger end of the spectrum, or the smaller end of the spectrum, which is sole proprietorships?
We're leaning towards Andre, startups.
Startups. Okay.
Startup. So SME or sole prop, but as long as they're startups.
Okay, what is the character of what about them? Why are you choosing them?
First of all, so sa startup, talaga, yung pinaka foundation namin talaga dito is yung stakeholder namin is startups. Parang dinagdag lang namin yung existing because there are possibilities na although they are already existing in the market, they might want to still avail our services.
Okay,
But
so I think I know your answer, but answer it for me. So why did you choose startups?
Because they are the ones that really needs our service. They're parang they are the parang they're blind to the service that we are offering. So parang sila yung pinaka in need of our service more
In
than
other
the
words,
existing ones.
In other words, correct me if I'm wrong, and really correct me if I'm wrong. You're zeroing in on startups because as they are just starting up, they usually have zero. They have nothing, right?
Yes.
Usually these guys know what they know, which is their product, their market, but they don't know anything about HR, BIR, SEC, all these pain in the ass things that frankly they shouldn't have to know about. If I'm a founder, I should know about the product and the markets and the customers that I want to serve. I should be able to focus on that, right? I shouldn't have to bother about HR, BIR, filing this, filing that, blah, 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 right? That's the answer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I put words in your mouth. So I'm just demonstrating to everyone the level of intimacy you need to have, the level of connection you need to have for your target stakeholder. When I ask you why them, you need to be able to enunciate the character of your answer. Why them? Because this is their particular situation. They're just starting up. In this case, they don't know anything. And frankly, they don't want to know anything else other than what they do know, which is why they're starting the company to begin with. They're very passionate people, right? They're very focused. We want them to be focused. So throw all the other extra dumb things to us, right? That's what you want.
Yes.
Okay, now let me ask you about the process. Were you guys unanimous from the start? How did the process go for you from solo workout to peer exchange?
So I've invited the collaborators. Then after that, I informed them na I have sent an invite for them to collaborate in this kind of project. And then I've given them like 15 to 30 minutes to start on the solo workout. Doon pa lang kami sa target stakeholders. So we've started solo workout. Usually ito kasi yung process namin per stop. So we have 15 to 30 minutes solo workout. And then I've given them after that 10 minutes to read and collaborate through comments muna dun sa mga inputs ng each team members. And then after that, we do the plenary. In the plenary...
Yeah. Can you flash your 100H?
The screen.
Yeah, the screen, and we can look at the peer exchange for target stakeholder. Yeah.
Yeah, so
right.
this...
This is a question to Mary Ann, Eileen, and the rest of the team. Was there a particular solo workout input that you guys zeroed in on, that you guys built on? Or was it Miguel, if we read through this, founders from startup or SMEs, sole prop SMEs, can you scroll down, startup organizations, target stakeholders that would benefit from this project is a startup company. And so it sounds like you guys talked even before you did this solo workout, right? Because everybody's singing the same song.
Yes.
Right? So everyone's unanimous. You knew coming into this that this is what you were going to do.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So why don't we not waste time anymore on this? Let's go to the next step.
Okay.
Very curious what pains you. If you notice, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first group, platforms, and you guys are targeting the same stakeholders, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now I would just ask you guys the same questions that I asked them. Think about industries also, no? In the context of the post-pandemic, who's gonna survive? Who's gonna survive? Who's gonna need your services, right? If you can zero in on a cluster of, on a sector, right? That's gonna need your services. For example, there's gonna be a whole new generation of startups that are gonna be doing e-commerce, because everything's gonna be, a lot more things are gonna be happening from home, right? Maybe we should start penetrating then that sector, or I don't know, work from home solutions or home study solutions. In other words, try to understand a bit more with a bit more focus, a bit more specificity, who your target stakeholder startups are.
Yep. For now, it's
Because-
service
because-
industry.
Yeah, because there's a lot of startups that are just not gonna survive, and there's no point in picking them as your target stakeholder, unless you want to go into funeral services.
For now, our target industry is service industry.
What do you
It does
mean
not
by-
require physical.
What do you mean by service? Can you give me some examples?
For example, like I would like to say, like for example, Loud Cloud. So their service industry, us, we're service industry. Parang their operations, is still up, even there are pandemic, even we are in this crisis.
Okay, so maybe when we get to the next step, when you're defining the pain points, as you're defining the pain points, it will make it much more real and clear to you how you should zero in on your target stakeholder based on the pains that you're identifying. Does that make sense?
Okay.
In other words, we're doing something pretty nifty here, which is we're using step 4 in order to refine our answer for step 5. Does this make sense, Miguel?
Yep. It does.
Okay,
So what are we
so
looking at here?
This is the iterated response for our target stakeholders.
Okay.
So we will skip this.
Stop.
yeah, we can skip
Yeah,
that because it's
step
pretty
4.
obvious because you guys were unanimous.
Mhm.
On
Just go back to itinerary. Back to itinerary. Okay, target problem.
Peer exchange.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
All right. So
Yes.
before you go to the behind the scenes, which is what this is, what did you zero in on as the target problem?
So our target problem here is the challenge of focusing on core. Actually, we chose Eileen as the iterated response here. The challenge of focusing on core, product and sales while managing HR, admin, finance, and admin operations.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so it's exactly what I enunciated earlier, right? So these guys are starting companies. They're passionate about their product. They're passionate about their customers, and we don't want them to be having painful experiences with all the other peripheral stuff like HR, admin, finance, right? That's pretty much it. Okay.
Right.
Let me ask you guys, just to challenge you a bit more. What are the top three? And this time I'm talking about our own experience, no? As a 6-7-year-old startup ourselves, what is, when you say HR, admin, finance, all these, what are the top three, honest to goodness, most painful things that we have to do that are non-core, that are shared, that are part of the shared services? Can you enlighten us? Honest to goodness, it's such a huge thing.
Painful.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ayan. So I think what is painful for us, it's
For the company, like for HR admin, Andre, maybe yung mga SSS, PhilHealth, yung mga ganyan. Like, yung mga hindi mo notice but they're very important because they're government mandated HR processes.
compliance.
Compliance related stuff. Both finance and HR, compliance related stuff na super taxing kasi ang detailed pero hindi siya core to the
No,
founders.
understood na that we're talking about non-core things. So basically, precisely my question is, amongst the non-core activities, and there's a lot that shared services does, right? What are the top three most painful ones? Is it payroll? Is it finding insurance? Is it filing the BIR, the quarterly stuff? What are the top three most painful ones? And most recurring ones? You don't have to answer that question now, but you should know that the answer to that question. You guys do this day in and day out. Maybe you're manhid already to the pain. But Miguel, you understand what I'm asking, no?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Nawala si ME eh. Sige, I'll take note of that. Pero gets ko kung ano yung tanong.
To treat the pains that shared services is covering equally, right? But I want you to really be honest with yourself. This whole exercise is about keeping it real, right? When you're talking about shared services and the pains that shared services are addressing, for sure yan, may bell curve of things that are normal, and then there's this extreme portion here that is extremely painful. What are those? But we're also looking for the things that are most recurring, so that again, we're more focused. Okay?
Hello.
Hello? Yes.
Okay, I'm back.
All right. What was your target impact? Your vision of impact?
So
top five.
I'm gonna move to vision of impact. Wait lang. Punta na ako sa iterated response. So our vision of impact is from leaders who need to juggle focusing on business core and support operations, to leaders that have the ability to focus on their most impact core area with having the peace of mind and confidence of their business compliance and support operations.
Okay, very well done. I think your path is clear. You just have to sharpen. Okay? We'll probably circle back to you when we're done with problem discovery. With the other teams.
Okay.
So well done, shared. Anything else?
Thank you.
Do
you have any questions for us, shared team, or the rest of the team? Any questions for us?
Clarification.
Any ideas? Anything you disagree with?
So far, wala pa naman.
Okay.
We've actually, for
For
me,
now, wala.
as a feedback of using this platform, it's kind of parang enjoyable in a sense.
Okay.
The tool, it's
In what
on my
way?
brain. Kasi nga, parang, number one, parang we have questions na already set na that are thrown to us. Kasi sometimes doing the business side, parang especially na sa startup, parang it's difficult where to start, what questions to ask yourself. For example, ganon. So this tool, meron na siya, and it will lead you to ano talaga, parang solutions. Actually, we've already have our parang dito, solutions na proposed initially. Yan, but yun nga. And then we have timed ourselves, parang ano siya, efficient din siya. Kasi nga, it has the time constraint. Hindi lang siya, parang hindi ka lang maglalaro sa hangin na parang ang haba na ng time na na-consume mo.
Yeah.
At certain, ayun.
I-quote natin yan, huwag maglaro sa hangin.
Tulala.
Marge, if we can note also how we can, within the context of the digital app, start introducing the time elements, because that's something that is we're leaving open to whichever team. If a team wants to take 3 days, they'll take 3 days. Parang,
Yeah.
you know, how do we ingest a bit more of the sprinting elements? Kind of like exactly what we did in Dali, right? Mga ganun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Again, we're not going to answer that point right now, but just let's just take note of it. Okay, huwag tayo maglaro sa hangin. Very good. Thank you.
May bago tayong quote card.
Oh, huwag maglaro sa hangin. 100 each.
MA.
Thank you.
Pwede pang sine. Pwede yung title ng sine.
And it's really fun. But you know what, MA, thanks for it's precisely the exercise that Miguel started with, diba? The quality of our answers depends on the quality of our questions. Draw a sunset versus draw this last sunset you experienced, right? So here we like to believe we are asking you quality questions in the proper sequence in which they should be thought about, and lo and behold, you do have answers, no?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. Okay, good. When we think about this solution in the context of how we built it for our target stakeholders, again, the CEO, the one down, you can think about it as precisely we are just handing down the same questions at each layer. We're handing down a logic discipline, a way of working that can be passed down, especially given a tool. It can be passed down and cascaded down through the ranks, so that not everything has to come from the bosses. Because things like what you guys are doing cannot come from the bosses, right? It has to come from the ground. We just have to aid the people up and down the ranks with the right questions, the right tools. Okay? Well, enjoy those, Miguel. Okay.
Hello.
Next.
Okay, thank you.
While we are, so we're in the subject of wholeness. Let us greet one of our, Miss Grax is here. Finally able to join us again, although I heard that she has a bit of a fever right now, still trying to recover. But it's good to see Grax again. So say hello, everyone, to Grax.
Hi, team.
Come on, Grax.
Hi, Grax.
Hello.
Hi, Grax.
Okay, get better soon. Take care of that. Okay, who's next? Wholeness.
Joanna. Okay, just to set the stage, I proposed to those collaborators, to my collaborators, who are Keng, Georges, Mitch, Dandy, and Carlo, already using SoulPad as a baseline idea to create a revenue stream for Ignite. So coming in already with that mindset.
Okay.
I will share already. Yeah, okay. We did this in 2 sessions. We did one last Friday, took us 1.5 hours to do stops 3 to 5. And then we did 6 stops 6 to 8 kanina for 1 hour. So I will agree with MA that this is really a really good tool. I enjoyed using it. And it really helps you to think fast and come up with answers fast. Okay, I just share this.
Hey, quote cards.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Uh,
So we
yeah.
start, hindi pa?
So we'll just do. I can see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
just start
Okay.
with. Let's do it as a Q&A, Joanna.
Sige. Go.
Okay. So who's your target stakeholder?
So our stakeholders are leaders with a substantial number of team members. We don't know the number. Hindi pwedeng leader tapos tatlo lang. Parang that's how we're thinking.
Okay. So leaders with. Did you guys? Is this your iterated response? What finally was your iterated?
Okay. I'll step back a bit. Kasi from the start, ako yung medyo iba. I was thinking of doctors as well, but everyone is kind of aligned in terms of leaders, like human resources leaders, business leaders, sales leaders. Tapos si Georges and Michelle were saying we're talking about employees and workers, which based on our stakeholder, targeted na rin yun. Because if you have leaders, of course, you have people under you who will be impacted as well if you solve the pain of the leader. So ako yung nag-iterate in a way because I removed the doctors.
Okay.
So doctors, so it's leaders and their teams. Okay.
Leaders and their
teams. Very, very okay. The way we answered this as well, para lang, kasi nga, I told you, we were very quick in answering this. So during the peer exchange, we were doing talaga discussions. We were not writing comments on the pages, on the comment boxes. Kaya yung iba dito very straightforward as well. Okay. So, ayan, leaders and their teams pa yan. Friends, and then how we encounter them. Friends who are business leaders who are dealing with tremendous pressure from the top and bottom of the organization. I think it was Ken who brought it up, that the pressure is actually coming from top and bottom. The bottom is we're trying to already impact them in terms of the team members. Pero, of course, we cannot discount the fact that these leaders might have bosses above them who are also impacting their performance because of what we're going to be discussing next, which is the pain, right?
Sige, ako, I would say that the same comment. Think about this target stakeholder in terms of making tighter P-hit about who they are, especially imagine who they are or who they should be in the context of who's going to be surviving this COVID, this pandemic. When they restart, what is their situation going to look like, etc. But that's really more for the next stop number 4. Miguel, did you have anything else?
Well, yeah, I just found it a little broad also.
Oh,
Parang, yeah, but I was also thinking about it. It could also be one of the ways of like improving it in my end. Really, I'm thinking, baka we need to require that they dive deeper into their understanding of the stakeholder and not just treat it as one word or like a bunch of words. I mean, what do you know about the stakeholder and how does it make sense within the context of, like in this case, as a COVID, because you're right, parang what's the point of working for SMEs if most of them won't even be there? And that didn't even dawn upon me actually until we were having this discussion. So maybe allowing that type of space when they do stop number 3, to explore these things because they are very vital.
I have an idea, Miguel, and I throw it out to the rest of them. It says this, if we go back to target stakeholder, we talk about who's your target, describe your target stakeholder, and then how have you encountered them. we could add something like pick a real person whom you don't have to name them, but describe them as the target stakeholder. What's their position?
Yeah.
What industry are they in? What problems do you know for a fact, or that you can surmise with enough legitimacy, diba? Parang a portrait of a real person, which is a little bit of a takeoff from your practice, Miguel, where you actually post a picture, an image of a representative person, diba? Something along those lines to make it more real and anchored on the ground. What do you think?
Agree. Yeah, agree. I that's more evident to me now because it's so easy to fall into just trying to name someone, but without really, actually seeing, should we even be serving them to begin with? I mean, if it doesn't make sense at this point, same thing. The question won't make sense, or it won't be a good question because you're not even addressing people with like actual needs. So yeah, this is something that will help actually.
Well, the practical difference there, for example, with Joanna's team would be instead of just saying, what did they say, business leaders who manage a lot of people, they could be good at that, but they could also have a, bring it to life in terms of a caricature or what do you call this? A prototype. No, it's not a prototype. It's an archetype, right? They can describe a real person. They can say, oh, this person is personified by Jojo Cruz, who is the head of this company, and this is their situation. Parang ganon.
Yes.
To actually require as strongly as possible that the team be able to name and describe a real person who best approximates or best represents this target stakeholder.
I think that's an important point, Andre, because what happens a lot, especially like in UX UI, they love using personas. The thing is with personas is that they tend to be a mishmash of like 10 different people that they try to, create this hyper persona, when that in turn it's so far from the actual reality. Versus what you just mentioned, having this portrait of a real person, it grounds it on on truth, authenticity, and it's not something that it's not like a Frankenstein persona, which usually happens when people try to mix all these key traits into this one person. So I actually like that, that suggestion.
So Marjan, maybe we could add this to our notes as to how we incorporate something like this now. But this is reminiscent of just 11:30 today. If you recall, Dandy was asking about a deliverable that she had and whether she should submit it for a person, a CEO specifically, or whether she should do it generically. And my answer precisely was not do it for this specific CEO. No, so that again, it's the difference between developing something in the lab, so to speak, versus in the field. No, in the field is when you have specific people in mind who are fairly representative of the types of people you're talking about. No, again, if you go back to our experience of the way we define CEO, one downs, next downs, without naming that person, you knew who we were talking about, right? And you probably have a problem if you cannot personify in the person of a real person your target stakeholder. You probably have a problem.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? If you can't fill in that new blank, which we're going to develop, that asks you to describe a real person who best personifies your target stakeholder, then you probably have a problem, because that problem is not real to you. or this opportunity, this human being is not real to you. Okay, so when you think about that, do you want to take a shot, Joanna and team, at describing a real person? Don't name them, since we're in a public airwaves, but describe them.
Just to before describing that person, I can really describe that person. My team members can chime in anytime if I'm wrong. No, I think given that I told them that the baseline idea of what we're doing is actually a SoulPad, it is therefore the target market of SoulPad, which is the target market of Ignite, which is, of course, big companies. And this is validated actually when we came moving to step 8, when actually Kang interviewed someone and said that the prototype that we actually created is good for a big company. So we didn't really talk about it, but in my head, I think that's what we're targeting, leaders of big companies. And I'm thinking of CFO, CPO, somebody who's really so stressed out at this point because of the new norm, because of the big bosses breathing down their necks, they're being anxious, being stressed out. There's so many uncertainties because they don't know what's going to happen next. And also they don't know what's happening with their teams because they're at home. They don't see them every day. So that's the idea of the leader that we're talking about. My team can chime in if I'm wrong.
Okay.
During our discussion, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
but
we
echoey.
During our discussion, there were a couple of characters na bring up while we were discussing the target stakeholders. And personally, there were a couple of, one of my brothers, of course, kasi siya yung tinutukoy ko dyan na middle manager who's getting a mandate from his boss and then also needs to take care of his team. So he told me couple of stories na about his pressure and the anxiety and the stress that he's having because ang daming problem na dinala ng pandemic sa team niya, but at the same time, his bosses are mandating him to deliver this, continue the operations, etc. And he's working in a BPO company. So the demand is medyo mataas talaga. Hence, his feedback in the latter steps is, I appreciated his feedback kasi he told me that is something that is needed sa kanya personally. And there were also a couple of mga characters na nabanggit. I think hindi lang explicit dun sa sinulat namin, but it came up when we were discussing the target stakeholders. So I think putting that archetype in the questions would really be a great idea. Because while we were discussing and designing this, ang nasa utak ko talaga yung kuya ko. So, yeah, and it helped me answer all the questions.
Exactly. That's precisely what Miguel and I were talking about. Have a person in mind. Okay, so then talk to us about your target points.
So we can probably move forward. No, we were quite aligned when it comes to what pain we're trying to solve. We already talked about it, about stress, anxiety that this COVID is bringing, and plus the little things that come along with it, like financial help for the families, the safety, security.
Joanna,
okay,
let's start with the iterated response for this. What did you zero in on?
Okay. Patay. We were not able to kasi babalik ako dito sa ano. This is a bug that we were trying to solve, but we were not able to solve. Yeah. So this is is it the vision of impact already?
Nope.
Okay.
So your pain point.
Pain point.
The pain point. The pain point is that leaders who are stressed, anxious, confused because they don't know what to do in this time of pandemic, and they are so worried about their team members, and they are also pressured because of their bosses who are trying to mandate them to operationalize what the plans are in terms of the company's direction within this new norm.
Okay, so pressure from above, pressure from below, pressure from all around. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
that's I wasn't able to type that in because nga naka-stuck siya.
So what is your Delta statement?
This is our Delta statement. So from leaders who are stressed, anxious, and confused because of the new normal, unable to take care of themselves and their team, negatively impacting performance. To leaders who are whole, focused and empowered, able to take care of themselves and their team members, significantly advancing peak performance.
Well, if you can achieve this from two statement, I'm sure you'd have hit a gold mine, and I want to be part of it. But it sounds like you're proposing some sort of magic potion. Let's see.
We're
Okay.
so
Miguel,
excited.
Well, it's ambitious, which we want. Okay.
Mhm.
Of course, when we get to the next stops, that's when the reality sets in. Not that I'm
Yep.
saying it won't happen, but,
Yep.
but I'm big on being ambitious at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's good because, like I said, if you aren't able to fulfill that Delta statement, which I believe is a very good Delta statement, then
Mhm.
I'm sure people will pay for it, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So the question now is, we got to see how we're going to develop an actual solution for this.
Okay.
That doesn't involve Jesus Christ rising from the dead again.
Nope. Just
Okay.
ignite.
All right. Okay. Good.
Okay, thanks.
I stand corrected. Jesus is risen. So, but anyway, sorry. Say baby.
Baka maano ka.
All right.
Okay.
Good. Let's just.
All
Thank you.
right, thanks. So, last group, Media House.
Any reflections on that third group, Miguel? Overall.
Well, I know they've been doing the work since last week, so it was good that it seemed that I had a lot of conversations around the topics. I guess that's really something that we have to get used to. Just by sharing it and showing it to people, it
Yeah.
does help us understand no matter which stop you're at. So that's why it's such an important part of what we're doing. Really just creating that behavior of that. After you think of something by yourself, you're showing it to someone. And by showing it to someone, it helps lead to, a better place somewhat. And you can see it with their from to statement. It's pretty solid.
Okay. All right. So Media House.
Sorry, I have a question though.
Yeah.
See, we talked about the need to imagine someone, describe someone who is in that process. We also went as far as the seeking evidence, so we actually talked to people and asked their opinion. So, must it make sense that this person should be the same person, or they can be different people?
You can definitely show it to that person you have in mind, but also it just can't be one person. So you can definitely test. You can seek evidence. You can get their feedback. At the same time, look for people in a similar set. There's something called extreme users that you can do, but at this stage you won't tackle it. So there are ways that there are things you can do to actually enrich the feedback like process for this. But yes, if you have access to that person that you're initially solving for, then by all means show it to them, and then look for similar people in that set, and then see where it takes you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last group.
Okay, kami na po. Hello, everything.
Sorry.
Hello.
Who did you say have?
Hello, everything. Di mo gets yun.
Okay.
Gusto ko yun sa Facebook. Teka lang.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello,
So,
everything.
hello, everything.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hello, back to you.
Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Balik na ako sa simula. So I'll start with our iterated response mo na dun sa stakeholder. So, ang stakeholders namin is business leaders whose companies have completely shut down temporarily and whose employees currently don't undergo any sort of training, upskilling, or learning during this period of quarantine. So, how I personally, as the project lead for this, kasi what happened was, when Miguel started us on this, he made us do 3 separate projects per writer. So eventually, we chose mine. So essentially talaga, we had very different stakeholders. But this was my stakeholder during my solo workout. It didn't change much during that year exchange, but it was really more fine-tuned. Here's the thing. Di ba parang the way we, or at least I defined the stakeholder is by the current situation and the problems that they are experiencing. Is that okay as a process? Versus what you were saying earlier, parang imagining a particular person, situating yourself in their shoes. For me, parang ganun yung naging process ko. Parang ano yung problem na I defined my stakeholder based on the problems that they experience. Is that a good way to do it?
Well, you should start off from their needs. Definitely. I mean, you have a stakeholder in mind, then you have to link that back to what are their needs, what are, I guess, their pain points. So to some extent, that that is how you would decide which stakeholder to go to. When if you think about it, also when you explain, when you try to paint this picture of the stakeholder in your head, it involves that that need and pain point. It's part of that portrait. Okay, so okay. It's part of it.
So okay lang na it's sort of parang yung step 3, yung step 3 and 4 sort of parang nagko-coalesce somehow. Parang okay lang yon.
Yeah, there's actually that was something I was thinking of. Maybe there might be opportunity around that. I mean, just to see if it will help enrich it. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Kasi also parang we're coming from and I share this with the writers. We also learned about this based on our research during AHABIS. Kasi believe it or not, parang not everyone that we call or that we get in touch with are actually parang giving us anything. I mean, like, there's a lot of people we interviewed whose parang people wala talagang ginagawa. Like, wala. Kaya ito, dito ako nag-focus. Parang there's still a lot of companies out there whose employees are not doing anything at home. And it is understandable because business leaders right now are busy keeping their businesses afloat. So for now, this is not one of their priorities to take care of their people and maybe really upskilling them and making them learn something new. So yon, which
I think Dandy, listening to you, I understand more. Your point is when you're defining the target stakeholder, do you start diving into their problems already?
No.
I think what you're doing here is just defining describing the target stakeholder and their current situation, which you've done very well here, no? Business leaders whose companies have completely shut down and whose employed temporarily and whose employees currently don't undergo any. So it's zero. It's a complete state of paralysis, no matter how temporarily. I think that's a good way to zero in on the target stakeholder, because in the next stop, which is zeroing in on target problems, you take a deeper dive as to what the pains are with regards to the situation.
Yes.
Diba?
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's a difference. That's the difference. And you shouldn't try to mix the two. You shouldn't try to go to a deep dive of the problem. Here, you're just trying to identify the human being. You know, what is characteristic about them. You know, in the case of the other teams, it's a startup, right? Startups that need to, they're passionate about what they're starting up in terms of the product and the market, and they don't need to to deal with all these other sidetrack issues. So just describe. It's a way, in a way, it's a way of proving to yourself and to your team that you know who you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Which, for example, the last group, parang business leaders who manage a lot of people, no, versus this. So who is proving that they know their stakeholder more? Diba? It's this one. You know, what about that target stakeholder are you zeroing in on? It's this particular, and maybe describe the target stakeholder who will benefit from our project. Maybe there needs to be a little bit of fine tuning there as to what about them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then are you able to, it sounds to me, Dandy, like your team is able to enunciate the persona here in terms of a real person. No? In fact, several real people, no, who are like, no.
I think that was born from the interview. You know, the fact that there was something you actually
born out of our field interviews wherein we weren't able to harvest any learnings or ahas from them.
If I may interject, the only thing we got from them are problems.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, bring it on.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a major aha there, which maybe doesn't fit into our aha biz model in terms of the show, but it certainly fits into an aha that we can take advantage of when generating revenue ideas, no? Which is, ang dami pala nun, right? Would you say that in your experience, you encounter more of these than the ones who are actually up and about?
No naman. Siguro, equally.
Okay, all right. So, but that's still a fair 50-50, right? I mean, that's still a fair number.
Yep.
Okay, so just one question. If this iterated response was your solo workout, how come it's Sarah's name who is here?
Sarah, how do you explain this nga? Actually.
Hindi kasi po nung nag-start tayo na gawin to with Miguel, akala ko parang uniform na yun yung stakeholder. Kasi kakapasok ko lang nito ulit eh.
Yeah, because Sarah was sick, so parang she just copy-pasted everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
understanding ko po kasi ng exercise pa lang siya, so hindi ko siya nabago.
Okay. That explains it. So
if I could explain your process. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Good. So we can move on to stop number 4. So what is your...
Yes. Okay. Unfortunately, may bug din yung namin, yung iterated response.
Yeah.
Stop 4. However, okay. So I'll just go to my answer to solo workout and I'll go through the tweaks. Initially, I wrote here. So the employees of these business leaders remain stagnant during this lockdown. And the reason why is business leaders don't have the bandwidth, essentially. Like I said, this is really one of their least priorities right now. They don't see the value in upskilling or training their people when these business leaders don't even know how they will advance and going into the new normal. How we iterated this was I particularly Miguel's answer. What worsens this situation is that they are in a work from home setting. They're basically just in a virtual office. So what more? How hard? If it's hard probably before for them to train and upskill their teams while they are in the office setting, how much more difficult would it be right now in this setting?
Okay.
So, and what Miguel said is that there should be a mindset change for these business leaders. First and foremost, they have to understand that this is something that they need to also prioritize, to invest in their people during this time. So that's our iterated response. How can
Can you restate, please?
how might we how might we inspire business leaders to make upskilling and upskilling for their employees one of their top priorities right now in order to benefit their company in the long run?
All right, that is not a pain statement. That is not a problem statement. That is, you're supposed to zero in on the target problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're supposed to express this from the point of view of your target stakeholder.
Mm-hmm.
For example, right? For example, in our case for 100H, we said our target stakeholders are the CEOs, the 1 downs, the 2 downs, the 3 downs. What is their problem? They need to refocus, they need to reorganize, they need to bang out solutions right? So you need to stay focused and coherent with your chosen stakeholder.
Yep.
So do it.
Okay. So if I were to reword that, how can with all the problems that business leaders are experiencing right now, how can they be able to provide still provide upskilling and training and education for their employees? Parang it's more of...
Okay, so I feel like we're getting lost here. You just said something that we cannot ignore.
Yeah.
Which is that in peace times, we're in wartime, right?
Yeah.
In peace times, they do not bother with these. They can't be bothered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training, upskilling, all these. Or they don't put a premium to it.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think they would put a more of a premium to it? If they don't feel that as a pain point in peacetime, will they feel it as a pain point in wartime?
For me, the challenge is for us to be able to convince them that this is something that
you are bastardizing the stop.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the question in the stop. The question is, what is the pain point in the eye of the target stakeholder? What you're doing is you are transposing our pain point to them. You're saying, how do we convince them? That's our pain point. That's not their pain point.
Mm-hmm.
The disconnect here is you're not being real. Not as real as we need you to be in terms of really connecting with these people. For example, we already talked about this, and I'm surprised that nobody's picking up on it. And it has to do with wartime versus peacetime. In peacetime, you can go ahead and ignore the well-being, mentally, psychically, skills-wise of your people. Now, it's wartime. Your people are really distraught. They are shredded in several pieces. They have not reported to work, not in so many weeks, probably months by the time this is over. They have so many worries. They're traumatized. But do you understand? In wartime, the leader now has to deal with a very different situation than peacetime. Now the question is, does this peacetime, does this wartime create any kind of difference in their level of pain or their level of, their level of pain? For example, is a wartime leader able to just tell their people to go restart accounting, restart sales, restart marketing as if nothing happened?
No.
No, right? So in a sense, the things that they were able to conveniently ignore in peacetime, they cannot continue to ignore in wartime because their human beings, their human capital have been traumatized. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So their pain point now is more real to them.
Mm-hmm.
The things they were able to ignore before, they cannot ignore anymore now. Am I making this up?
No, that's correct.
Right. So that now becomes a more real, palpable pain point to them.
Mm-hmm.
Before, it was not palpable. They could sweep it under the rug. It's business as usual. Let's just keep on doing marketing. Let's just keep on doing sales. Let's just keep on doing accounting. Let's just keep on doing customer service. Life is good. It's what Jojo Concepcion always refers to as sometimes he appreciates moments of crisis because it forces people out of their complacency. It forces people to manifest and pursue the serious changes that they needed to do but were too comfortable and too complacent to do in peacetime. Right? In other words, nobody feels the pain in the peacetime. In the wartime, you have to go back to basics. And part of the basics is if you have 100 people under you or 1,000 people under you, you can't just send them back to battle and start telling them on day one, hey, do accounting. The world has changed. How you? So now, because the world has changed, they can't. There is now they can feel with a lot more obviousness the pain of upskilling, realigning their employees. Am I getting somewhere with this, or am I losing you?
Yeah. For us though, at least based on the people I've interviewed, I don't see that yet from them. That's exactly why, I mean, the urgency of, at least for the business leaders, they don't see yet the urgency of upskilling, reskilling, educating their people right now.
So I'm not saying that's the right answer or the only answer, but I'm giving you an example of an answer that enunciates pain point from the point of view of the target stakeholder. I would still argue with you again in the very same context of the way I corrected Chini a while ago. You do not listen to the answers of you do not literally listen, right? You have to be ahead of your stakeholder, in this case, a prospective customer. Nobody's been here before. They don't know what's coming. These guys cannot imagine and envision that day when they restart. But can you do that for them? When they have to restart, can I just send my troops back to battle as if nothing happened?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it's going to become real to them, that pain. Miguel, can you help me out here?
Yeah. I think there's something I noticed maybe also because from the beginning, the part of upskilling was it something expressed by the business leaders that you spoke to? Like, did they specifically say na what do you call this? Na they didn't have an opportunity to upskill and things like that?
Actually, these kinds of stories, we heard not from business leaders themselves, but from the one down, from employees themselves. They just say, "Wala, I mean, we're not doing anything right now. That's all. We don't. Our companies are not making us anything, so we're just here. I mean, we're just waiting this pandemic out, this lockdown out. Ganon." So yun. So
Yes, but they didn't specifically say that wala silang upskilling. Ang sinabi lang nila, wala silang ginagawa.
wala.
Okay, so yeah, and so maybe that's. I mean, I get Andre's point. I'm also saying it wasn't clear to me also a while ago. But yeah, if because at the target stakeholder level, we actually put that upskilling part. It kind of transferred, like moving forward. We actually did put our own parang reason or parang it's almost like we unintentionally put that solution there already.
Mhm.
So parang I'd go back nga and probably just rehash that and say that na wala silang ginagawa. And their pain point, they could have said something also na, I guess they said something around wala silang ginagawa. Maybe they're not sure about what's happening. So I can see what Andre's saying. It wasn't evident to me though first initially, but yeah.
Admittedly, and I guess this is the learning for everyone. Parang when we wrote that or I wrote that, parang may bias na ako, parang ganun. Parang yung upskilling, relearning or whatever. Parang I guess dun pumasok yung bias ko in terms of yun yung naisip ko agad kumbaga na parang ganon, alam mo.
One way to frame the pain points here, because on the other hand, I'm not advocating that you just take what they say, and that's part of being a good innovator is actually being ahead of your customers, right? Otherwise, there would never have been cars. There would never have been iPads. If Steve Jobs had just listened to what people were saying, right? What we need to do is to be able to imagine pain points, whether people say it or not. So, for example, agree or disagree, going back to this target stakeholder, one of their pain points is these people are used to, as leaders, are used to having, let's say, 100 people who are every day reporting and at least feeling like they're productive and delivering output every day. So every day numbers are being met, stuff like that. Right now, that's not happening. Do you think that's painful?
It is.
Yes, so that's something we can enunciate.
Yeah.
One, so the fact that nothing is happening when they're used to every day something is happening.
Yep.
Number two, if in their minds this is a forced situation where nothing can happen because you're an enhanced community quarantine, everybody's stuck, we can't sell our goods, do you think it might still be painful for them that again, this is whether they see it or not, no? Is it not a pain point that they are not taking advantage of this time to somehow advance their people?
Yeah, that's exactly the pain point that we wanted to address.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So because there's this also line of thinking that I think we can superimpose on them. If not too many of them are going to be savvy about this to the point of being able to enunciate it, but maybe in the back of their heads and in the back of their hearts, they know this to be true, which is in a situation like this, if you're staying static, you are falling behind.
Yeah.
The only way you cannot fall behind is if you move ahead. But if you're not doing anything, you're actually falling behind. Your 100 people are falling behind. That's a pain point. Now, how we manage to convince them that that's a pain point is a separate thing. But the fact is, let's establish first and recognize that that is a pain point.
Mm-hmm.
That if we're able to convey that to them, they would recognize it. And those who have resources to do something about it would probably address that pain point. Right? So first of all, again, lesson is when we're writing and zeroing in on the target stakeholder's pain point, we cannot express that pain point from our perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No? So how do I convince these guys that we have to write it from their perspective of what the pain is, what their pain is now, whether they recognize it or not. No.
Yeah.
So given this, can we put our collective heads to this? So in an environment where operations have stopped, what are the pain points? Again, it really helps to put yourself in the shoes of a very specific person here and imagine what the pain points are. The owner of the company, the chairman or the CEO, he's got all these people under payroll. 9 out of 10 of them are not working. That's painful.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of free tools out there, but everyone's just staying static. Maybe some of them don't know about it. Maybe most of them don't know that they can be proactive about this time. That's also painful. All the way to that point where it's time to restart already. It will come. It's not a question of if, but when. Now, when this time comes, again, what's going to happen to this leader who for the past 30 days, 45 days, has just allowed their people to not do anything? Do you think it's as simple as just snapping your finger? Okay, 45 days later, we're now on day 1. Let's go. Let's get started. That's like, for those of you who work out, if you have not worked out in 45 days, that first day, that first week, the first 10 days you're coming back, it's going to be a pain in the ass. It's the same thing. Am I getting through here?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to zero in and make these pains more real and more clearly enunciated.
Mm-hmm.
Before then, we can come to a delta statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miguel, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, at this point, I'm really eager to hear somebody talk about solutions.
Maybe we can quickly run through what they came up with.
Yeah, what are the solutions from Joanna's team and shared services team? Real quickly, you don't even have to do screencast. But you're the ones who have gotten to pretty clear and compelling delta statements. So would either one of you please volunteer to share with us, what your initial work has been on the problem-solving part? Solution.
I can, but I need to share. You cannot understand it if I'm not. It's just a photo of the prototype para makita nyo rin yung iterated.
All right, go ahead. What is it?
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's like, of course, the name isn't gonna be the name. It's Soulpad Premium. Okay, so it's an expanded version of the Soulpad Plus Plus. So there will be 3 levels. You can see that broken person, right? This is the leader that we're trying to target. And then the first thing that we will be doing is to provide tools to companies. The way we're seeing this, it's more of mas digital platform, pwede siyang recorded, more of IP. So instead of presenting it as yoga, these will be practical exercises. This is the initial prototype before the iterated one. And then Iggy app, we will be using, these are webcasts of experts, meaning we will invite like psychologists or whoever that we can invite so that experts talaga yon, and then postcards, and of course declarations and PBs for those who are participating. This is an 8-day thing. So para siyang Soulpad na expanded version that we just dump sa companies. And then the level 2 of this will be a 100 hours or a whole lab growth lab version, a digital platform if we're still not out. This one will be participated by the people who were able to use these tools. What's going to happen here is that these people will come together so that they can come up with a long-term wellness program that their company can roll out for the whole year. So they will be the one who will be thinking of that, not us. We will just provide them with the tools. Ideally, these will be the leaders. And then the level 3 will be Ignite Wellness coaches, leaders who will be trained. Hindi nag-iterate to So leaders who will be trained so that they will be able to really focus on the wholeness of their team members, themselves first, of course, and then their team members. So ang iterated niyan, this is actually mine. Yung iterated niya is this. After hearing out yung mga ni na Keng and ideas, nagkaroon na yun ng timeline and number of hours that we will be giving it. Like this will be daily. The tools that we will be giving out will be daily. And then there will be one webcast along with it. Then the culminating activity will be postcards, PBs, and declarations. This will run in 8 days. Why 8 days? Ito dumagdag, the GPS. I kind of missed that on the first drawing. If you're attending the Soulpad, this week is actually different from the other weeks that we have created. The 7 themes are all focused on wellness, body, mind, heart, and spirit. This week is actually zeroing in on the GPS, being able to help individuals embrace the manifesto, understand it, close their eyes, and really, embrace the manifesto so that GPS is already integrated in terms of what we are offering them dito sa level pa lang na to, sa level 1 pa lang. And then sa itong level 2, what we came up with is yung growth lab. We don't know. We had based on an interview, we were thinking of Carlo. We had a great discussion about. Can you pitch in when it comes to the idea that we had with the growth lab?
Okay, good. Yeah. The one I talked to kasi said about the growth collaborative. That's nice and good, but sometimes a lot of people's mindset are that I think it's discussed in one of our discussions some time ago. Is some of them are just coping, some of them are just trying to survive, some of them are just trying to adjust or power through this crisis, this lockdown, and get to the new normal. Very few are really trying to think about, hey, how can we grow? What's the opportunity here? They're really hurting, so they can't even go past that. So the feedback I got was that it's nice if the company has reached that, but it's really the everyday kind of what you call this positivity, how to counter the negative effects when you wake up, you're stuck again here. You're sick and tired of home, you can't go out. It's one thing to work from home without a lockdown, because that's your way of working. But when you're forced to do it all the time and you're stuck with people day in, day out, and you can't really, it's very monotonous. For the feedback was they need more positivity, more mindsetting, more focusing, rather than the collab. But the collab's not a bad idea. It's just that maybe not as many will think it's as important as the everyday stuff. So that's my feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, we're thinking of 100 hours to be able to come up with long-term wellness programs. And then another iteration on level 3 is that these leaders who will be Ignite wholeness leaders will be executing whatever comes out from the collab growth lab. I will go to the iterated
Miguel, can you comment so far?
Okay. This is iterated response.
It feels like it's a bunch of stuff we already do to some extent. So maybe like for me the challenge, how much further can we stretch this without, of course, keeping in mind that it can't be too out there that that we won't be able to do it. But parang parang there's an opportunity just to stretch it even more and see how much further we can push it. I would probably add some maybe some constraints. Let's see if this was going to be an online only experience or certain things to see how we can push it, or it just feels like it's a bunch of stuff we already do right now.
So
I don't mean it in a bad way.
Is the concern, Miguel, that we are just
rehashing what we're already doing?
Rehashing what we're already doing instead of really innovating?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, rehashing what we already do can be good or it can be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not good or bad as an outcome. In other words, if that's the outcome of an honest to goodness process, that's good. In fact, that's a very good outcome because that means we can be more efficient. We don't have to do new things. We just have to reconfigure old things. But if that outcome is based on us being lazy and unimaginative, then that becomes bad news. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we move to the iterated response?
In fact, that was the only thing I was asking for, the iterated response. I wanted to get a sense of what your iterated response is. For those of you who were in the in Tally, remember how we got this down to one of the first things we did when we started doing rapid prototyping was to actually write a paragraph, and we wrote and rewrote it and edited it together in Tally. That one paragraph, literally it was on my iPad and I kept on just erasing words, phrases here until we got the right paragraph to describe in one paragraph what it was that we wanted to launch. Not all its features, but what is it? So it's a tool. I have the, if I may, just to remind everybody, if I may, because this is what I want you guys to start doing, is write out a paragraph that describes what it is that you want to do. What's the solution? Is it a digital toolkit? Is it a blended learning experience that composed of digital and but again, don't use PowerPoint and sketches yet. Describe it in English words so that we can find coherence in what you're doing. Sometimes kasi, when we have the benefit of visuals, we're trying to throw so many things in there, features. I don't know anymore what the essence is of what it is that you're proposing. Do you understand what I'm saying? What you guys need to do?
Because I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to Tally.
Do you guys understand what it is that you guys need to do?
Yeah.
Joanna, do you have teammates?
Yes. I understand,
Okay.
Andre.
You understand?
Yes.
All right. Describe this. Is this a rhinoceros? Is this an elephant? Is this a flying machine? Is this a digital app? Who is going to be using it? Is it going to be cascaded to leaders, or are their teams going to experience it? So write it down first in one coherent paragraph what this is.
If you're looking for something that's new with what we did, this is the long term that we're targeting. If you look at the screen, if you see the T3, Ignite Wholeness Coach, we were thinking of having this as an internal thing with the leaders. But eventually, what we're looking at is actually having these people as a pool of coaches who can actually, one, we can certify them. In fact, that came out about in the interview. Yes.
Joanna,
yeah.
Write that paragraph so we understand. Right now, you're giving us bits and pieces of what you want to do. I cannot, for a coherent picture of what it is that you want to sell. Write the paragraph. Don't give me more bits and pieces such as a T3. Write out in one coherent paragraph what it is that you want to sell. Okay?
Maybe they can help me with that because I cannot really ako kasi parang sa akin ang clear na in terms of the program as a whole, as a package. So I don't know, maybe they can help me with what you want us to do. My team members probably can tell.
That's why I need a confirmation from one of your teammates that they understand what I'm asking.
Yes, I understand, and this is my answer on behalf of the team.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll help also in crafting the paragraph.
Yeah. I'm just gonna try. Our solution is a digital experiential tool for the leaders so that they can come up with their with their own wholeness program for their team, and that they can instill it in the long run in their organization. So we're gonna start with the leaders.
Clear. That's clear. So yes, that's clearer now. Now, when they construct so now I can comment. Thank you, Ken. When do leaders construct their own wholeness programs? Tama ba?
Yes.
Ken, tama ba?
Opo, yes.
Okay. So when they construct that, in order to deliver the actual wholeness programs, do they need us? Delivery, Kasi you talked about designing and architecting. Do they need us in order to deliver the actual wholeness programs to, let's say, their 30 people or their 300 people?
Well, the design or the solution that we tried to design was they don't need us anymore after that third box that you see on your screen. As soon as they came up with their own wholeness and they've been certified as Ignite Wholeness coaches, they can actually do this sa sarili nilang team. There. Because what we wanted to do was for the leaders to actually embrace this, to be accountable as well dun sa wellness and wholeness ng team nila para mas nasusustain nila on their own. Yun.
So are we aware of how I think Miguel has brought up the analogy several times. Miguel, yung Zumba ba yun? Or any other, actually even Bikram yoga. I recently watched a Bikram yoga, actually all about how the founder became a scumbag. But the whole propagation methodology is T3. You get licensed as a Bikram yoga instructor, and now that you're licensed, you can put up a studio that actually delivers Bikram stuff, and you can use all the marketing.
Yes.
Is this similar to that, but in the novel context of you do it as a leader, certified in Ignite whatever, wholeness, but you're doing it not for the open market of customers, so to speak, but within the captive audience of your own company? Parang
Yes.
ganun.
Yes.
Okay. Miguel, what do you think?
Yeah, parang right now the T3 is in the end, di ba?
Yes.
So parang, kasi, well, using the Zumba example, that's pretty much how they scaled it. It was through a T3, and like their main parang, thing they were giving out were like the Zumba playlists. But again, it allowed them to scale in that sense. Versus, here the T3 is actually in the end parang there might be a different way to really push this.
Ako, I don't care that the T3 is in the end or the beginning. Miguel might be right or may be wrong. But what I have to say is I like what you guys are doing. First of all, King's one sentence was really helpful in placing what this was. And when you tell me that in the context of the Bikram yoga model, where people get certified. And then, kasi if you're a Bikram yoga or a Zumba certified, now you have to turn to the open market, gather up your own students. It's just that you have the ability to use the marketing designation of a Zumba instructor or a Bikram yoga instructor, right?
Yes.
Your problem now becomes you have to find your own audience, run your own studio, etc. in the open market.
Yep.
The beauty of what you guys are doing is you're applying the same logic now within the context of a corporate captive audience, where you're turning the leaders into licensed Ignite wholeness blah blah, and now they have a captive audience, right? So there's something to be said about that. I like that. Maybe the analogy here is not Zumba or Bikram yoga, Miguel. It's all these what do you call this, Six Sigma.
Yes, exactly. That's what
yeah.
from the interview of King.
So ganun ba yun? Is that what you guys plan to do?
Yes.
Okay, then you just...
Well, yeah, parang ano yung mga black belting, ganyan.
Ganun.
Parang mga ganun nga. Even Strengths Finder coaches, di ba, I forgot kung ano yung mahawak. All these things are in one world of, and especially now that I think the companies are really willing to pay in terms of yung certifications, the online thing. I think it's something that they would want to invest.
So if Keng and Dandy remember again the paragraphing exercise that we did, no, I understand that Keng took a stab at it. It helped me understand. You need to go back to that, because what that is it's a positioning thing. That paragraph makes it very clear to you how you're positioning this, watching your language. Is this so that you are able to calibrate the language to address the delta statements and the pain points of your target stakeholders using the right positioning? So for example, are you licensed? I mean, I'm just pulling things up in there. Are you licensed wholeness practitioners in the new normal? Are those the right positioning statements? You have to come out clearly from the beginning, kasi it could become very muddled what you're talking about. It encompasses so many spaces: wellness, wholeness, yoga, blah, blah, blah. So you have to, as a matter of rapid prototyping, the first thing you need to prototype is your positioning, because this is a very potentially ambiguous, confusing space. Miguel, is there a term for what I'm talking about, the exercise of writing a paragraph to clearly delineate their positioning? Not to say that they finally got it right, but in delineating it, they can start testing that and redelineate the boundaries of where their position is. Kasi it's a confusing market space that they're entering, potentially.
Well, what I would do would probably I use something called what needs to be true, wherein basically I try and realize, okay, given whatever that paragraph might be initially, what needs to be true in order for this to actually happen. So parang I would be testing around those things first in this space wherein there are a lot of like moving parts. For example, I would probably, like, what needs to be true for me is like, do they even care about wholeness? So for example, if they don't, then do you now create a solution that makes them care about wholeness first or not? Or so I think there's some, it's good to have a paragraph just to start things off, because it does give a very quick way to prototype something. I would probably have multiple paragraphs that establish a position. Like, I'd look at it like different ways, because you want to get feedback and see, instead of showing them one paragraph, could I show 3 that have distinct parang positions, and then use the data from there to lead to a iterated position after that.
So some of the positioning parameters or variables you may want to test or play around with are things like, what are the keywords that need to be there?
Yeah.
Before you construct the paragraph, I suggest you do keywords. Does new normal have to be there? Does peak performance have to be there? Does wholeness need to be there? Those types of things. Do you need to position this as T3, as licensed? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
when you have these keywords and variables, then try to construct them into a paragraph and then test those paragraphs. Because all these rectangles and features that you're talking about only make sense depending on what the positioning is.
Okay.
Yeah, because there might be some fundamental things that that aren't true, which negates a lot of what you did here already. So parang ako that's it's certain things need to be true in order for an idea to sell. So yeah, the whole keywords thing works. It just helps. It helps you build what that paragraph would be. So I'd say you can do that. But again, look at these paragraphs as as prototypes as well, and then see where it leads you. I don't know if I talked about how you're always starting off with a 5% version of what it could be. So if that 5% starts at a paragraph, see how you can use that and whatever data you gather from the feedback you're getting, and see how it builds into something that, because this one that you have here feels very finished. Well, at least from an idea standpoint, it seems there are very clear things, and it honestly, at the prototyping level, there's a lot to digest. So I think the paragraph helps.
What this sketch is rich in is a lot of features.
Yes.
But that's not the way to construct a powerful solution. You have to start with positioning, because features only make sense depending on the positioning. So you have to get the positioning correctly first. What kind of beast is this exactly? How will people want to interface with it? And then you can work out what features make sense and what are the headline features, what are the more subtext features and all that. So I really would, I look forward to your paragraph.
Actually, Andre, now I think about it, maybe that should also be a little bit more explicit in the app itself also.
Writing a paragraph.
Yeah.
One of your prototypes. Yeah, positioning paragraph.
Yeah. I'm taking note of that. Marge, up a note din.
Parang you need to have, the positioning is basically, you know what it is? It's an elevator pitch. You need to have an elevator pitch to describe what it is that you are doing. And the elevator pitch needs to obviously be in a paragraph form, 3 to 5 sentences, and it has to have the keywords. The keywords which are basically zeroing in right smack onto your delta statement, which is based on the pain points of your target stakeholder. Miguel, tama ba? In long and short, it is an elevator pitch. It's a quick and dirty way to describe what it is that you're pitching to them.
Yeah, as long as there are no features. I mean, just the key points.
Yeah. Yun. Okay.
Okay.
Guys, what should we do with this? What does everybody's workload look like tomorrow? What at this point, if we could stop the recording already, I think. Well, let me bring it to a close. Guys, we want to thank what was it? 5 teams, 4 teams.
4
teams.
4 teams did the Launchpad today. We have a table to be excited about. I think. I hope it has been a learning experience for you, as it has been for me. And Miguel, do you have any parting words?
Well, me, I hope we can just keep on using it, because honestly, I learned a lot also in terms of how we can make this even more effective and more usable for everyone. So just keep using it. Just keep sending us, feedback. A lot of you have been reaching out to me just to give your feedback, and that's been very helpful. So there, a bunch of things that that we can improve on this, because we want people to use this, but we want them to use it in a way that's still authentic to the way that we do things here in Ignite. So
okay. So on that note, shall we say thank you, au revoir, and see you next week?